Welcome to PRODEEN. My name is Jakub.
And I'm Tye. Hi, Jakub.
Hello.
This is our first, hopefully not our last, whatever we want to call it, Fireside chat.
PRODEEN chat.
The PRODEEN chat. Welcome, everyone. Thanks for your interest in PRODEEN and what we're up to. We continually want to share what we're developing, what we're thinking about, and so today it's a nice chance to sit down with Jakub, who's the CTO of PRODEEN, and talk a little bit about PRODEEN Signals. So, what is PRODEEN Signals? There's a lot in the industry on how you look really beyond the four walls of your business. And so, PRODEEN Signals, I think it's a term to consider also in areas that we know of in the industry, horizon scanning, monitoring. In our case, it's really about looking for any information changes that can have an impact on your business. And so from our standpoint, this is one of the most important areas to begin with within PRODEEN. And the direction we're taking, I think, is going to be quite unique. There's a lot more possibilities now in this space, wouldn't you say?
Exactly, because I think with our experience, we've seen the issues that we faced before, right? Issues with the taxonomy, with the keyword-based searches, and we've seen amount of input you get, and your expert need to kind of process the amount of noise they need to sift through to kind of find the relevant and contextualize signals. So we are trying to kind of help in this direction.
Yeah, and let's expand on that because already over the last month, we've been spending a lot of time talking with our design partners, people in the industry that we've known throughout the years, and it's a topic that continues to come up. And one of the biggest issues that we think, or the biggest shifts that's happening is the possibilities, as you said, around this contextualization of the terms in horizon scanning. So what does that mean? Maybe describe for us, let's call it horizon scanning 1.0. Like what are they doing maybe currently or in the past, and what do you see? Yeah, explain more on this and what this means.
Right. So what most of us have seen is that a lot of the horizon scanning that has been done would be done maybe through third-party system, right? But what happens then is that you are offloading your taxonomy to those companies, right? So what is your definition of milk in the food safety and within regulatory, right? Those third-party systems need to kind of define something common across all of the different clients. So it's not kind of contextualized to you. So you need to kind of shift your mind to actually what content is relevant to you. And when you are kind of going through your regulatory compliance, regulatory watch, where you need to follow up on those regulations, there is a difference between seeing what are all of the new upcoming regulations, and there is a difference between understanding how they affect your business, right? And a lot of these problems you are not able to solve them with simple keyword searches, you're not able to solve them with simple processes we had before.
Yeah. So what I've seen is it's really hard to get in that sweet spot, right?
Yep.
Either very broad, and so that it becomes an overwhelming amount of kind of generic information that you have to somehow catch and find in all of the noise, or it can become too focused and too specific. And what ends up happening there is that then people are worried that they're missing out on something. Yep. And so there's this that then evolves into a very complicated mess. I think the exciting thing that a lot of this new technology is offering in AI and just the use of natural language is this ability to continue to kind of fine tune it, to adjust it, and really get it right exactly for your business. So maybe enough of talking about it. Let's get into some of the specifics. So today we have kind of 3 examples that we want to go over. And the first one is going to start with, let's say, one of the most important, which are our food safety alerts. And this is in a very critical area. I would say mandatory for food and beverage companies to be looking for incidences around that can impact their business in a multitude of ways. This could be fraud, this could be microbiological or contaminant issues. There's a variety of things that companies need to be looking at in this space. So why don't you kind of go in and give us our first look at how this is shaping up?
So within PRODEEN, one of the playbooks that we are kind of offering is this food safety horizon scan. You can just quickly say, use it. You will have some example prompts. We prepared one for this specific PRODEEN chat and how it works. What I want to do maybe is not actually work within PRODEEN. Maybe there is a specific database that I want to collect the data in. So for this specific demo, we just want to collect data into spreadsheet, so something I can easily share and collaborate within my team on the food safety, right? Not everybody needs access to PRODEEN. I already specified the format that I want to follow. So I want for each incident that is relevant to me, I want URL, I want description, I want what is the affected commodity, I want what is the affected hazard, and I also want to classify a risk and get some sort of reasoning behind the risk, which is kind of, I think, important. Within PRODEEN, there are a couple of things that one of the key things is that we can contextualize this query to our specific projects. So at the moment, for this demo, we have a product that we are developing, which is this acai and guarana splash. When I attach this project, we can also automatically help the agent understand what is the context of what we want to do. I will also tell it, you will collect the information in the specific spreadsheet, and I will have some explanation for the risk. So let's see how this works. And I also tell it to not only get, so for the initial collection, I want the data from the last 2 weeks. And on top of it, I want to schedule a weekly schedule. So every week at 9, it should check for the new upcoming data, append it to the spreadsheet, and then also send me a summary on the email. The PRODEEN agent is done in a way that is a little bit collaborative. So first it will look up what is the actually information, what is the context it should be working on, right? So at the moment, it's asking, okay, maybe what are the ingredients with the acai and guarana splash. It completed the search, and now it will continue kind of preparing the horizon scanning plan for you. So at the moment, it's also looking at the spreadsheet where it's asked to put in the data. And it sees, okay, I see this is the information, and tells me, hey, is this plan good to go, right? So it explains, I will be looking at this. For each incident, I will classify certain things. I will collect the data, append it to a spreadsheet, and so on. Potentially, I can provide some additional context, right? So for example, I can say the risk, so already is running on, and collecting the specific set of incidences.
Yeah, so while it's going, explain more on this risk, because I think this is a very interesting point. Like, how is it determining the risk profile? Is that something that we're doing, or the user's doing, or is this something that the system itself is doing?
So there will be always some sort of default behavior, right? So based on the risk of the specific contaminant or the specific hazard, but this is something you can fully customize, right? So for example, in our scenario, I think in here will be mainly what is the relevance to our own ingredients, right? So more closer it is to our own ingredients that we have in this acai product, then higher risk it will be, right? You can also think about that you can kind of also jump in and potentially customize your own risk rating, right? So you can also think about like different ways of thinking about this.
So also here, you let it go, start understanding how its reasoning adjust along the way.
Exactly. So one of those things that you can also see what will be the first of results that we will get. But for your kind of context, what is happening at the moment is that the agent is actually going into those websites. So it's not we don't have any maintained database of those incidents. It's actually going live into those websites, looking at the recent incidents, collecting all of the information, and trying to find the relevant things. And then based on how you prepare the plan together with the agent, it will perform the tasks. And you don't have to think about Google Drive if you are not on it, right? You can potentially go in and say, maybe it will be our own internal system. This is on the output, or it could be your OneDrive, Excel. Or if you have, you can also think about, okay, maybe on the input there will be different things. So if you have your own database of incidents that are your sources, maybe the agent will go there and start from that area, right? and you see already some kind of key matches that it found. It's kind of notifying us about along the way what is happening. And let's see, already it's telling me that it's uploading the data to the spreadsheet. So if I switch to in here, I see kind of the reasoning behind each incident. So what I get is what I asked for. I have the URL, I have the description of the issue, I have the commodity, hazard, the risk rating, and the reasoning behind the risk rating, right? Sometimes there will be specific things maybe that I don't like, maybe I want to filter out, right? So this is kind of the new way we are thinking of the horizon scanning, because how would you do it in the old systems? You would need to maybe go work with this provider to kind of update the taxonomy. Maybe you would need to find a complex way of thinking about those keywords, complex way of kind of understanding those incidents.
And then sharing it as
and
well
sharing
becomes
it as well.
complicated.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, once this is finished, maybe what I can do is just jump in and say, hey, I'm not that interested in salmonella, right? So what I would just write is that going forward, do not notify me about salmonella, right? And if I have this task scheduled, and if I just send this update, the system will actually just update the running task. And this is how you can kind of collaborate with PRODEEN agent to kind of tweak and monitor. And after a couple of iterations, once you get some data, you get really tailor-made monitoring, which is something that is being tailor-made not by IT person, not by somebody who doesn't get the domain, but you specifically, just using the simple chat.
Fantastic. No, I really see that as I've been working with it as well, that back and forth nature, it's very collaborative in the sense that start with it, start working, adjust along the way. No, that's wonderful. Great first example. Let's move on to another one, which is, I find equally as interesting, which is kind of supplier monitoring, right? Looking also beyond, just individual ingredients or products or hazards, and what information is out there also with regard to supplier, and how can you improve the overall monitoring of those with whom you're working?
For those suppliers, there are like different aspects, right? A lot of the times, I can kind of jump right into one of the signals we have. So, for example, so this is one of the previously created jobs. At the moment, for this one, I'm not kind of putting it into any external system. We can also collect the data directly in PRODEEN. So what I have is this one of the reports that was generated. This is kind of, you always have kind of initial starting point from the supplier, which is kind of the research. Interesting thing about this is that due to the nature how the AI search works, you are not always looking just, okay, keyword matches for that specific supplier, right? Sometimes, because what this is the Bora Foods for me is supplier of sesame seeds of India. So one of the things that the agent is actually looking for are maybe specific adjacent signals, right? So what are the geopolitical situation in that specific region? Are there any weather conditions I should be worried about? And the cool thing about this is that it knows what it told you before, right? So now that I essentially run this check again, it will not only give me the new results from the new sources from maybe last month, but what it will do is that it will compare that information to this document, which is kind of what we know about Bora Foods, right? And only highlight the differences if there are any. Maybe you will not get any notification because there is nothing to notify about, right? One of the things that is, I think, cool is that we can also focus on specific important government sources. So, for example, imagine there is a specific FDA alert that you need to get, that you need to be notified. You get it automatically. So, if, for example, now there is a warning letter for the specific supplier, agent understands that this is critical, right? And the entire report is just about the FDA and deep dive into the FDA, right? It disregards now the geopolitical situations because it knows, okay, I need to focus on this.
Yeah, certainly there's always been a lot of issues around the complexity of FDA import alerts and where to find the right information and what section and that sort of thing. So now you can surface it based on specific company names or whatever it may be.
But sometimes the supplier domain is kind of interesting because a lot of the times it's not about monitoring news, right? A lot of the times you have like specific things that you need to do on daily basis, right? So one of the things we have in our projects is within this product, again Acai, if I switch back into we have this smart grid, which is list of our suppliers. By the way, these are fake, so but you can imagine your own list, and this list could be 50,000 items in the end, right? Sometimes the monitoring for the suppliers is not about I need to monitor every single news article about those, but sometimes is that I have 50,000 certificates and I don't have a way to manage them. I need to know expiration dates for each of those, right? So for example, for this we are thinking of, okay, what are the specialized iterative checks that we can make, especially on those items, right?
Right.
So,
yeah, as one of the interviewees said, they have a PhD level person who spends hours a day looking up if someone's certificate's expired.
yeah, and this is like simple task that we can now reprocess and run dozens of agents to run in parallel, and only thing that they do is they go into BRCGS website and check for every supplier if their expiration for the license is not expired, and if it is, it maybe does some task, maybe sends you an email, maybe collects this into the nice spreadsheet that you can share, export, and give somebody, and you can run this on periodical basis. And it's not about horizon scanning for any single supplier. It's just one single task that you need to perform for every single one.
Fantastic. Yeah, great. Okay, so we've covered suppliers, we've covered the food safety. Another area mission critical is with regard to, let's call it regulatory change management, or keeping up to date with anything that impacts information from a more of a compliance standpoint. So why don't we dive into something on that?
Yeah, I think the regulatory change management is one of those important ones, because a lot of times the regulatory teams are small and they have a lot of work on their hands. A lot of times what we've seen is it's team of 3-4 people, and maybe they need to do entire horizon scanning for regulatory changes on a global level as a team of one.
Yeah.
Right? So these people need help.
Impossible.
So at the moment we've seen what they do is that they somehow use some systems to maybe filter out the relevant regulations somehow, but a lot of times there is a noise. Maybe a lot of times these are the changes that are not relevant for their specific products. So how can we help them? How can we contextualize information and filter out what is relevant for them? So if I jump back into the signals, we have one more example to share, which is our monthly check for the US legislation changes. So what we have, can you highlight key regulatory changes in the United States that are relevant for spirits and alcoholic beverages manufacturers? Anything related to ingredients, compliance, and labeling for us is a key. Focus on information from last 6 months, and from that on, let's do monthly basis, what is new, right? And what you get is a summary of a new potentially regulatory changes coming from official sources, not news, not anything else, but you can customize it however you want. And you get kind of nice high-level summary, but you can always kind of deep dive into those documents. But imagine now how you would use it in a practice, right? The check runs and you see maybe you are not interested in fully in the beverages. You want to narrow it down and make it even more contextualized. So you say, hey, only focus on, is there anything applicable to gins, whiskeys, right? Instead of entire product category of alcoholic beverages.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so PRODEEN Signal for Regulatory Watch, certainly one of the 3 most critical from what we've gathered. I think in that example, important to highlight, right, the US is just one case, but consider it for other countries, other languages, it can be really, really broad and global in nature. The other thing also I think that's important to consider is that this can also be information, knowledge coming from your own environment. Think about a company who's also getting important industry association newsletters. It's easy to set up a folder in a Google Drive or some type of shared space, put it in there, and that will also be brought into the process and in the monitoring process.
And think of the way to kind of customize it. It doesn't have to be on the market level. It could be on the product category level, or even imagine just updates on the labeling. Just I want to get all of the new labeling changes, and I want to have them in a specific format so I can use them later.
Great. Well, we've covered 3 important areas on PRODEEN Signals. I hope that that's really shown the direction that we're going and our enthusiasm to really bring a new approach to the overall monitoring, be it of food safety, regulatory, or supplier information. We do genuinely believe that there are enormous possibilities to do this heavy lifting so our clients, our customers are freed up to focus on the most important issues and are not going to drown in too much information or not enough. And so, yeah, I'm excited about this. We really look forward to getting more people that are using it, sharing their findings and thoughts on it. Any last words from your side, Jakub?
Well, we are expanding still the markets that we support. We are expanding integrations we have, and your feedback and your input into your biggest pain points, it will be kind of the guiding star for us.
Indeed. We're building this together with everyone. So thanks, Jakub, and we look forward to the next version of this to come soon. Good day.